Yeah. I know they mad for no reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Gotta move fast for a reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Huddling, I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, I'm staring at charts until I retire. Oh, 700K, I'm selling a Bitcoin. Haters mad, but they listen to this one. More profit coming to my direction. Yeah, you know me, I don't need a mention. I got the remedy, ooh, yeah. They don't just follow me, ooh, yeah. You say allegedly, ooh, yeah. You would subscribe to me, ooh, yeah. Staring at chart, drawing a line. Make a decision, you out of time. Huddling, I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. See on stage. On-chain revolution. Done this. Phone.
Welcome back to On-Chain Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire crypto ecosystem. What is up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're live for the On-Chain Hour, and today's show is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be a pretty good show. We got Bitcoin sitting at 87,964 right now. Ethereum sitting at 2,962. Solana just under 130, sitting at 129.74. Tau has a halving. If it's, I got to check on if it passed or not. I just thought about it just right now. But sitting at 264 is an absolute gift. I mean, it's Christmas early for anyone buying Tau right now. Absolutely insane. Merlin Chain doing pretty good, sitting around 39 cents. Agent Hustle sitting at 0.0037, about $3.7 million market cap there. XRP doing good today. Doing really good today. Up 2%, 2.2%. That's sitting at 193. Hyper liquid, really getting hurt. Sitting at $27. This thing's kind of been down only for a while now. Is that the team selling? I don't know. Aster having a good day, back to 80 cents. Farcoin up 2% today. So is Sonic. So the markets are looking better than they were yesterday. I'm not going to say the markets are looking good because we got beat down pretty bad over the weekend and yesterday. But now, what am I seeing in the markets? I'm actually seeing that we could actually continue this beatdown. I hate to say that, but with the Japan carry trade of them raising rates on the 19th, the markets are forward looking. So everyone is looking at that day. Everyone knows that it's going to happen. So it's one of those things that, is that already baked in? Are we baking that in now? I guess that is the question. We'll find out, after Friday and going into next week, which I know is Christmas, and the week after, and then we head into the new year. Will that matter going into 2026? I don't know. I got a really good tweet from Rand Nooner of Crypto Banter. He basically came out and said something is broken, and we're going to look back in hindsight and be like, it was so obvious. Why didn't we see it? So we're going to go over that tweet. So much really cool stuff going on. The bears on Hyperliquid are strong. We'll get into that. And a lot of cool stuff happening from Circle and PayPal today as well. So let's get today's show started. So without further ado, bring our partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up? What's
going on, man? How you feeling today, bro?
I feel good. I feel a bit energized. I know the price action isn't the best for our space right now, but I think being ready for events like we're about to talk about, right, with the interest rates increasing in Japan and what that has done in the recent history, right, to our market. But looking at that as, with a half glass full type of situation, where the opportunity is going to be whenever things do pull back. And it's not guaranteed to pull back. What we're going off of is, what has happened when it has, Japan has increased interest rates, right? So being ready, but also just finding new, ways to have some sort of opportunity in the space, I think is important. Don't force something into like a position that doesn't fit necessarily, but also keep researching and keep learning, and you might find a strategy that you do well in, or something just to at least like be on top of things.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's like, you can always learn more about yourself, right? What kind of trader, and that's kind of what when we're doing the Artura stuff, right? When we're interviewing traders, some of the biggest things that I took away from those interviews were learn about yourself. And I used to, when we were doing them, I was like, I know everything about myself. I'm, you know what I mean? But when you start trading and you see those emotions pop out, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday. Like, I'm in this trade and it got low enough to where I was like freaking out, but I did nothing, and that ended up being the best decision, right? So it's like one of those things. Knowing yourself really helps in this game for sure. I mean, I can't wait to get to an area where I don't have to worry about this, where I can just put money in something and then 2 years later be very happy with it. But it's not. This is not the market for that yet. Will we get there? Hopefully. But let's kind of get into today's first topic of the day. Crypto crash incoming. Is this the ultimate buy opportunity or time to exit? So this is the chart that you were kind of talking about here. This is the BTC and Bank of Japan rate increase. Every single time we've had a rate increase, Bitcoin has dumped hard right after it was announced, right? So the 19th is kind of when it'll be announced again. And but are we baking that in now? Are we already like looking at past data? Because we didn't have past data to look at before. Are we looking at past data right now? And we do know what happens when you look at past data. A lot of the times it does the opposite, especially this year. So are you still concerned about this? Is this the reason why you think potentially we could dump going into the weekend?
So I do think that that's why there's, some pullback right now that's happening. But then also, so that happened yesterday, right? And then we almost kind of get this like swing back up right now. We're almost to 80, back to 88. So yesterday we got down to 85, right? We went down to low 85,000. And I think the swings kind of coming back and forth is intentional to kind of soften a bit of the downtrend that will come on the 19th, or a couple days following the 19th. And I would say, yeah, you're absolutely right about using historical data patterns for our space, not just not being reliable this year.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is this one of these interest hikes happened this year. Now, I know it was in the very beginning of the year. It was actually at the worst possible time, if you remember. Like, the Trump token had launched before this, and some of these other memes had launched right after that, and then also we just had this horrible kind of like pullback, if you remember, in late January, early February. That was nasty, and I do attribute some of that to this, right? Now, do we get a similar brutal pullback? Possibly, but maybe it's not as intense because we've already experienced one. Plus, like you mentioned, it's almost kind of baked in a little bit, right? Like it's swinging at actually pretty aggressively to the low, but it is kind of bringing us back a little bit, back and forth, right? And I think that is to soften the blow that's possibly coming on the 19th. Now, let's say, the 19th is announced, we get Bitcoin pulling back kind of aggressively, but we're hanging around this area of anywhere between 87 and 90. And then it pulls us back to like lower 80s. We've been there before in the past month and a half, 2 months. So I don't think that will be too bad. But it would be hard to, get anything, I think, going around Christmas time, right? But what Christmas could do is, because it's holidays, people aren't working as much on Christmas Eve and Christmas. It could that could dampen it as well, right? Because there's not a lot of activity. So, we have this pullback, and then, we kind of forget about it. People do their holiday stuff, shopping, et cetera, those kind of things. And then we kind of carry on right after Christmas. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But because we've had a recent experience here, I do expect a pullback. I mean, it's pretty obvious that this is how it affects Bitcoin.
Markets like to mess with traders, though, right? Like markets like to kind of like, okay, everyone's going to short going into this. Let's rip it long. right? Let's just go to 94 before a pullback. Just, you know what I mean? So it's like that's the only thing that gets me on this type of stuff is the markets like to manipulate when too many traders are facing one way. So I could potentially see us, maybe this right here was us baking it in. Right, maybe just drop from 126. Obviously, we know it was 1010 had a big deal with it, but maybe this was also people afraid of what's coming, because this has been something on Polygon 96% for a long time. It's not anything new, right? So it's been pretty baked in. I think this is baked in. I think we reverse here, because you have to remember too is like the bears are winning right now. So take a look at this, right? Hyperliquid smart money wallet dynamics. The top 5 traders on Polymarket. I mean, these guys are the whales, right? As you can see, bearish dominance, extreme bearish dominance, minimalist bearish dominance, right? So these guys are big guys, right? Like $19 million in unrealized profits, 43 million in unrealized profits, 8, 16, and 6. And most of them are short. This guy's a short Ethereum. This guy's short Hyperliquid and Fartcoin and XPL. This guy's short Zcash. This guy's short Bitcoin, Sol, ETH, and this guy's short Hyperliquid, right? So it's like these are the top 5 traders, and they're bearish. You can't just keep letting these guys win, right? Like at some point, the market's going to flip on these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how leverage works, right? And that's how these platforms and market makers make money, is by not letting it be easy, right?
Yeah.
Once it gets too easy, people get comfortable, and that's when they flip the switch. So I agree with you on that aspect. But man, the bears have definitely been winning the past couple months, and we've known that, right? I think they got a huge gift in October 10th, and since then it's been easy almost for them to be able to get into good position on any type of rise up with Bitcoin and some of the alts that have followed it, right? It's almost it's so easy because then plus they know that we're in a transition too, with not having a liquid environment. If we didn't have a liquid environment really before October 10th, we definitely went dry after. So, I felt like they really got a gift with that situation. And now it's been pretty easy for them to play the market. But it will flip on them. You're absolutely right at some point.
So I do think this happens. I think the local bottom for December is in. I think that 80,000. I don't think we get anywhere near that. I do think this pump today is sustainable going into the 19th. I think we'll be over 90,000 going into the weekend, but who knows? Something sneaky happened. The DXY dropped under 97 and then just popped back up to 98. This is something that I've been looking at. Again, we need the DXY to drop below 96. That is the ultimate indicator. If we're headed, let's just say the first week of January, we're at 96, 95, going into February, 94. I'm gonna say, hey, like we need to be in the riskiest assets going into March, but we will see.
And one thing really quick, can you show that again?
Yeah.
Show that right there. So, the previous 2 alt seasons, well, I guess you could kind of count that first part before the alt season there. I wanted to kind of see that right there. So there was multiple rejections in the beginning of that, right? So you had that first rejection there, and then the second one took us down underneath. And then this one, I guess that early one doesn't really count because it's so early anyways. Now, like this would be our first rejection right there, right? And so I actually feel like if we're comparing this to the 2017-20 situation, then it could be the second stab at it as well, right? Because if you go back further to the left, right there was it got kind of rejected. It went under, but it went back above really quick, and then the second attempt it went under to actually form alt season. And so I feel like we could be in a similar situation, except for this time we haven't even been underneath it. It's just been building up around it, right? So I don't know. I mean, like, there's only a certain amount more times I think that like we take stabs at it before it breaks down below, right?
I think the next one, these are monthly candles right now, right? We're showing the weekly originally, but now I think the monthly. I think we're 2 months away from drop below it. I think this candle is going to finish. We're going to have January's candle is going to get pretty close to it, touching it. And I think February breaks. And I think March drops even further. April drops even further. May is the bottom. And when I say bottom, that normally is the most intense part of the alt season, right? This right here.
Bottom of the Dixie.
Yeah, 100%. So this right here would be, let me get rid of this thing. Yeah, so this was, November, December 2020, 2021, right? So we got 6 months down here. And you can see, like, May, what ended up being, like, the top for altcoins, right? Because we both, I think we both agree that May was the official top. And then what happened in August was kind of like, or November, August and November was kind of like manipulated back up. Because you can see, like, the DXY was climbing during that period, right? It was almost like that shouldn't have happened. But if May was it, right, and you look over here, same thing, right? March was like February and March were the top of the alt season, right? So it's kind of like the same thing, and then you start building out of that. So if that's the case, let's just say maybe down here between July and October could be the top of alt season, which would make sense with the election.
Yeah, I mean, the 2026, there's a lot of catalysts there. I felt like we had some this year, but we probably should have at some point really just dissected thoroughly of all the catalysts and all of the things against us having a bullish year this year. If we did that, I think we would have saw a lot more of a clear vision. It wasn't easy. Like, the best of the best got it wrong this year, right? But next year there is a lot of catalysts, right? There's going to be money that's given back to citizens of the U.S. And then there's going to be a new chair. There's going to be an aggressive attempt to get energy going in this economy and market. So there's a lot going for our space. And if we don't run next year, then I think there's a big problem. Something's wrong.
Yeah, 100%. Storm actually has a good point. He said, "Bro, seriously, one day away from the bottom, and you be like this." I'm not sure what he means by that, but Glasshopper says, "What's up, legends?" He says, 206 will be my Tau gift. Christmas morning, 206 Tau. I mean, my sister would yell at me during Christmas, but I hope not. Yes, Tau having has occurred. So the Tau having has occurred. Shout out to Mike Bennett and WebDro. WebDro stuff feels like Ordinals finished bottoming out. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Hope
All right,
so.
I want to get into Rand's tweet here because Rand's someone I highly respect. He's very knowledgeable. People can talk crap all they want. At the end of the day, he's a performer, and he does a really good podcast. So he said, basically, it's time to acknowledge and admit the crypto market is broken. At some point, we need to admit that something structurally broken in the crypto market. 2025 was a year with all the necessities for a bull market. We had liquidity. We had pro-crypto U.S. government. We had ETFs. We had ETFs. We had Sailor buying 1 billion in Bitcoin. We had DATs. We had came off a low base, Biden, Harris, basically everything we needed to happen happened, right? And then he says, there's two options. We discover that what's actually broken and who's selling. And when we do, in hindsight, it will be obvious. We have the mother of all catch-up trades because that's how markets work. They can separate from where they are supposed to be for a short period, but will always come back to equilibrium. My hope is that for the latter, my bet is that we will soon find out what's actually broken. What do you think is broken? Do you think there's a balance sheet that is out of whack that these guys are selling down Bitcoin and Ethereum to kind of clean up? Like what could be broken that we look back in hindsight?
So first, what's his claim that the fact that we had like so much liquidity though? You know what I mean? Like the M2 supply going up.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about that though, because I think that had a lot to do with other nations rather than the US, not as much with the US side of things, right? And I do think
M2 money supply that was going up though.
Completely. So they were injecting liquidity into they were printing.
So you got to understand what the money supply is. The money supply is liquid cash on the sideline, right? So there's a ton of liquid cash. So it doesn't have to come from the printer itself. It can come from liquid money, liquid dollars as well.
So I mean, Bitcoin was following that for a certain period
Yeah.
of time, right? Like pretty closely, and then it deviated from it. So let's just say that the liquidity environment was good then, right?
Yeah.
Which I mean, I don't feel like that's the case because maybe it was, and I just didn't feel it because usually whenever you have an abundance of liquidity, it trickles down to their like the retail user eventually, right? And we just didn't see that in our space, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say the liquidity environment was fine, it wasn't broken, and then you have like the institutions that came in this year. I think if we're gonna say try to investigate any type of who's selling or anything like that, I think they should be number one. Like who is manipulating things? You got a lot of TradFi that are in our space, but not interacting with the natives, the Web3 natives like us. Definitely not going on crypto Twitter because that's just not their thing. You have like the likes of JP Morgan and a lot of rumors saying that they are trying to, crash MicroStrategy and all these things. So there's like a lot of strategy to bring the price down. And at the end of the day, they want it cheap, and this is something that I think was an easy, logical
Yeah.
kind of speculation. My wife even said, why would institutions just come and buy y'all's bags? That's not what they do. They don't come and buy people's bags, right? Like they set the rules in the framework and stuff like that. So I do think that they are someone in that group related to that group is the one that's really controlling and pulling the strings behind the scenes. But that's just me. That's my opinion from what I've gathered. And I haven't sat there for hours and tried to dissect that though. So that's just something like right off the cuff that I think about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. For that instance too, I also think it was a lot of Bitcoin whales that had a lot of the Bitcoin. Right, the guys who have been holding since 2011 really didn't need the money. Right, the Adam Backs of the world, the people who were mining Bitcoin in 2010 and 2011. We've seen a lot of those guys come out the woodwork and sell. Why would they sell? Well, now Bitcoin is being eaten up by corporations, and it's not their beloved Bitcoin anymore. I think a lot of these guys had a change of mindset, right? When it came to what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin's going to be. It's no longer their FU against the government. It's now an asset that the government potentially is going to hold. Right. So I think a lot of the thesis around what Bitcoin used to be changed. And I think a lot of those guys exit their positions, which in the long term is a good thing. Right. When you're sitting on 10,000 Bitcoin and it's $1 billion, a lot of those guys are like, I set my family up forever. Like, and I now am, what I mean? Now I'm a part of the 1% forever.
1%.
So it's like, I think a lot of those theses changed when they cashed out. And, and on top of that, you got to remember a lot of these guys, they're thinking on the lines of the 4-year cycle, right? Bitcoin had a normal Bitcoin bull run technically, right? It didn't go absolutely insane, but it's still, it tripled, right? From where it was prior when it hit 120, right? Went from 40K in the summer of 2024 to 120 in the summer of 2025. Right. So I think a lot of those guys, they cashed out. They're like, you know what? This is my 4th bull run now. I'm getting out up here. So I think it was a mixture of what you said. But I also think that a lot of these bigger whales exit the position. We've seen it multiple times, right? We've seen it, Galaxy Digital, people dumping on Coinbase Prime. And we've never had Coinbase Prime before in any cycle. It's where these whales can get out very easily and get, top dollar without giant fees on their Bitcoin, right? So, and then they're paying taxes and stuff like that. So I think it's a mixture. I think it's a mixture of whales selling, BlackRock wanting to buy it at a certain price. So they're not immediately buying these Bitcoin assets up. We have Wintermute for the first time as a market maker that makes sure, that they dump evenly throughout the entire ecosystem. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. So I do think that it was a mixture of this. But you got to remember, once the sell pressure is gone, it's gone, right? Like no one's going to decide to sell at 80K when they refuse to sell it at 90. It doesn't happen that way. We need to figure out what direction we're going and then move in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? For some of these people that have been holding that long. But I feel like, there was one that was in the headlines, right? Like on crypto Twitter too, like on people's feeds. I forgot what his name was, but he obviously sold a lot, right? And I think he actually bought some Ethereum too after he sold. Maybe that was a different guy. But there was a couple, right? But these, you're talking about some pretty astronomical like amounts that they had accumulated over the years, right? So they were OGs. I do think that like people like that have taken some profit though, like, you know what I mean, every cycle. But it was weird to see, you know, those were huge moves. Those were like jumbo moves. You're talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of liquidating it. So yeah, that affects it. And maybe if you do a lot of the little ones that have more, you know, like 10 to 50 million, or that aren't going to make headlines as much, right? Then maybe you could see that being chopped down a bit and affecting the overall price. But I really do think like institutions are manipulating right now, because they don't lose, man. They don't lose.
Let me ask you though, like, how are they manipulating? Like, how is it possible? Like, what are they doing? Are they shorting? Because you're not seeing the short numbers in the stock
probably.
market. The short numbers against the ETFs aren't really high.
Well,
And
maybe they're going into the actual market.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If they're going to Coinbase, or if they're going to, but these guys don't really do that, right? These big institutions don't really.
They don't give us the answers to anything. You know what I mean? These are institutions that don't give you the answers to anything unless you're a bank customer and they're legally, you know, obligated to tell you what you have in your bank account and stuff like that.
Blockchain, though, right? We can see it all. When JP Morgan deposits in the Binance, obviously we don't see what happens in Binance, but we know where that money came from.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I'm just saying, like, like there's a lot of stuff that like we probably don't know about that's happening. I mean, you know, it was apparent with Citadel whenever the GameStop situation happened. Like, no one questioned them. Like, they were market maker and they were broker and they were like all these like conflict of interest that, you know, people were like, what the hell, you know? So why wouldn't they play games over here? And they don't care, because there's not being like a huge like, you know, magnifying glass like trying to search for them and stuff right now. So I mean, I'm just saying, you know, there's something that's happening. He's right. Rand Neuner's right. Something that's happening. We don't know exactly what it is. And, you know, I'm also not sure if once we figure it out, all of a sudden it's going to turn okay, you know. But I do think the market does flip, because, you know, these large institutions, they take advantage of both, right? So I think they're preparing for, you know, easing and that type of thing, and they know that Trump wants 2026 to be a very positive feel for the U.S. in terms of the economy down to the individual level, because he wants to continue the work that he feels like he's done, right? For when he's done, like he wants the next president to be able to continue, because that's how you actually, you know, solidify a president's work, is because in our system, it's either every 4 or 8 years, and even on the 8-year side, like the other side wins, they flip everything, right? So there's a lot of strategy that's happening, I think, with this right now, you know, to make our economy better next year, and hopefully we get that. But yeah, I mean, we're not going to know exactly what's causing these sell downs and everything right now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely know. I think we'll have a good idea, like being in the space as much as we are. Like, I feel like something's gonna come out, like
eventually.
Yeah. We'll see. We got some economic data today. We're getting CPI on this upcoming Thursday. So I just want to keep you guys, if you are trading that'll be 8:30 Thursday morning. So there's a lot going on Thursday and Friday this week for sure, and the options expire on Friday as well. So that should be interesting. But we got some economic data today. So the U.S. unemployment rate for November came in at 4.6 compared to expectations of 4.4. So it came in a little higher. Seasonally adjusted non-farm payroll increased 64,000 in November versus expected 50,000. So, you know, we are seeing unemployment coming a little higher than they wanted, but also 14,000 more jobs that were created as well. So I wonder where that's coming from. Non-farm payroll is now, you know, 64,000, like I said. Wintermute actually came out And they said the market looks like it's consolidating, oversold, digesting macro uncertainty rather than entering a sustained risk-off phase. The economy's still forward motion, but the labor market is cooling, which keeps the door open for financial conditions ahead. They said Bitcoin is testing range lows while markets chop. Fed cut, but stayed cautious. AI trade is cooling, and the Bank of Japan risk add volatility. Feels like a year-end cleanup, not a full risk off trend. So they're coming out and they're saying originally they thought potentially we go into risk off going into December. They're basically coming out and saying they were wrong. The Bank of Japan isn't fully baked in, and they're kind of hoping that this year is the cleanup going into next year. So a lot happening. We are getting a lot of data this month and next month on top of Wintermute. I like that they're coming out and they're actually writing these articles and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the first time I saw it was about 3 months ago, and it seemed like they were saying the alt market's heating up, and things are looking like it's going to take a turn. And I think that was leading into October, so maybe late September when they put that out. And then that didn't really happen. And then, 3 weeks later they came out and said, we're still in this really, tight market, and it could be worse. And then now they're saying that, it could loosen up again. So I just felt like it was basically like obvious stuff that they were saying, and I just don't, maybe I just have a negative connotation to Wintermute in general, because everybody points them, they're the boogeyman, points at them like they're the big bad boogeyman. I don't think that's necessarily fair, but it is what it is. It's kind of like how our market is, and it's always been that way. By the way, people always try to point the finger when number go down, right? I mean, you even see like the crypto Twitter timeline last night, yesterday was like just falling apart. Everybody's like at each other's necks, and if it's kind of joking around, it's okay, it's funny and stuff, but like these people are serious. They're like pissed, and they're trying to figure out, and I get it, like I'm not laughing at them necessarily, but you gotta like move forward, right? You can't just, what are you going to do? Like, blame a ecosystem for number go down whenever the entire market is not in a good spot, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I personally, I felt the same way about Wintermute as everyone else did, right? But then I kind of looked into their business model. It's not their fault that Coinbase sends them 29,000 Bitcoin, at the same time that Binance sends them 14,000 Bitcoin, and BitGo sends them 12,000 Bitcoin, and they got to dump them all at the same time. How's that their fault? They have a job to do, right? So when we're all yelling, "Why are you selling the Bitcoin?" They're like, yeah, we have to. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, why are you guys market making this? Well, that's our job. People pay us to do this for them. Like, this is what we do. Price goes up too much, we sell a little bit. Price goes down too much, we buy a little bit. This is the game that we're offering the service. So it's like, I feel like hating the taxi driver, right, for getting stuck in traffic, like it's not his fault, right? Like I just feel like it's one of those things where it's just like that's the business that they're in.
Well, if the taxi driver was driving intentionally into traffic because they want to ring up, or like the number goes up and how long you're riding with them to pay the taxi company, then you can be upset.
It doesn't
right?
work that way no more. It's usually
I'm just saying. I just use that as an example, though, right?
So it's an old taxi,
but still, I mean, that was at one point. That's how taxis worked, right? And so people used to question sometimes taxi drivers. That's like, why are you taking this way? Why are you taking that way, right? So. I think that's why they look at Wintermute that way. Yes, they absolutely have a job to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a matter of fact that they dictate, the price of things by their action of their jobs. And you can, take it one level deeper or higher and say, well, it's not necessarily them, it's Coinbase. And then you can say, well, it's not necessarily Coinbase, it's their customers that are selling or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's why they point the finger at them, is because them market making is pushing price in one direction or the other.
Yeah, but like their job is to get the best price for the customer. If they think dumping it today rather than tomorrow, it gets the best price for that customer. I think you have to.
I don't think it even matters about that. It's just people that are trying to point the finger at somebody. And then you have mob mentality. And I'll tell you, crypto is one of those spaces that you can just grow mob mentality very quickly. It's like tribalistic mob mentality, caveman times. People don't even think; they just start shouting and pointing. So,
yeah. How do you get mad at the Tesla cab? I hear you, Ryan. I mean, I don't. I don't know.
you can't.
Move along now. You can't. Treasury Secretary Bessent, for the first time, actually confirms what Trump said. Says individuals may receive. I don't like the word "may" here. I would love him to put will receive $1,000, $2,000 tax refunds in Q1 of 2026. So when you file your taxes this year, you're going to get basically what you got last year, right? So nothing's changed there, but an additional $1,000 to $2,000 depending if you're doing joint or single, right? So potentially every American will potentially be getting $1,000 stimulus kind of back doing their taxes. And if you owe, obviously, then you'll just pay $1,000 less, right? Like when it comes to that point. But it's one of those things where this could actually set a little bit of a buying season up. What do you think?
I agree. Yes, I very much agree with this. And I do agree with you in the sense of like, I don't like them saying may receive. I think he said may receive because there's a range between 1,000 and 2,000. Because I want like a date, right? Which they're giving us. So this to me, I think is a pretty much slam dunk that this is going to happen because if we go through tax season and we don't get it, everybody can bitch at that point. Because it's like, okay, well, tax season passed. So you guys missed the window. You're not giving us what you said you would. Right. So I expect this to happen. And I do expect people to use it very responsibly. Just kidding. I think people are dumping it all in the meme coins and
Farcoin, baby. Farcoin.
But that's what we want. No, I was just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is a little bit of a liquidity boost for the everyday person, which a lot of people on crypto Twitter that are in the United States will benefit from this and receive this money. And we'll see if it can spark things, because I'll tell you what, man, like we need that. We need the spark somehow or another, and it needs to come from retail, like not ETF stuff, because that's not working at the moment.
100%. My stuff says when you're a whale, price suppression is easy, especially with low liquidity in altcoins. Bots sit on tasks. Bots sit on asks, recycle sell orders, absorb organic buys on sexes, and dexes got LP arbitrage looping. Yeah, I mean 100%. Definitely agree with that. He said I don't like the word may either. I can't stand indirect communication. I agree. So the thing that I just thought about though, and I wasn't, is that there's a certain threshold that I think you have to be under, like 100K or 150K.
Income?
That's why they said may. You think that's when they came to my head is I can't see every American getting it, but potentially the ones that are under a certain amount.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that they did say that they're taking the high income out. So I don't know what the threshold is for that. I think
that's probably why he added the may then.
Yeah, probably that. And then there's a range, but like, the mother of Bitcoin holder.
Is that a coin? Did I miss that one?
But I did hear them say that, this is not going to go towards like the high income bracket. So
that's why the may might be in there. It might not just because a thing, but and then we'll get these next two before we get into the Bitcoin price action. Nasdaq prepares filing to extend stock trading hours to 23 hours on weekdays. Why not just do the 24? Why do you need to shut down for an hour? But I do like this. They are going from the 8 or the 7 hour from 9:30 to 4 p.m., which I think is like 7.5 hours. And then they're going into this 23 hour area just during the weekdays, though. They'll still be closed on the weekends. At this point, just go 24 hours, 7 days, right?
I don't get it. Maybe there's a review process that you only need an hour for. It doesn't make sense to me either.
No trading from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. I need sleep. Like, I don't get it. All right, SEC Chairman Paul Atkins says public blockchains are more transparent than any other financial system ever built. I absolutely love Paul Atkins. I hated Gary Gensler with a passion, and I feel like every time he talks, Paul Atkins, I just love him more. Like, I think I love Paul Atkins more than I love my wife at this point. He's
Wow.
just an
Wow.
he's an absolute amazing man.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seems a lot more friendly towards the space for sure.
Yeah.
1000%. And it seems like he wants it to get going, right? He wants it to, hey, let's get this moving, so we can kind of know what our strong, clear role is going to be in it if we have one.
Yeah.
And but yeah, he's definitely pro crypto, that is for sure.
Yeah, love me some Paul Atkins. But let's kind of get into today's Bitcoin and crypto price action and crypto bubbles. Really excited for you to tell me that we're going green, baby. Going green.
Yeah, we are definitely going green here. Let me get my screen ready. And before we get into the price action, guys, on the YouTube side, smash that like for us, subscribe to the channel, turn all your notifications on so you know when we go live. On X, let's share the space, get as many people in here as possible. Same thing with the abstract stream, share that over there for that abstract group over there, pump streams. And then we have Rumble, Twitch, and Kick, and Spotify. But don't forget about Zora as well. So shout out to all you guys that watch and support. But let's take a look here at some price action for Bitcoin on the hour chart. So we are making a reversal a bit here. We already kind of started that. But as you can see, yesterday we wicked all the way down to 85,157, right? So we did have that dump that occurred yesterday, and this is our rebound here. So what does it look like for, the rest of today? Well, the stochastics looks pretty good. We're sitting at 95, right? And the highest that we got on the stochastics, we hit 100. Sometimes it will go past 100, right? That means we're in a very aggressive uptick. But right now, I think we got to survive this breakdown that's happening. You can see here it's starting to break down a little bit on the MACD momentum indicator here. But it's just, the first signs of maybe a breakdown occurring, because you can see the fast line is still kind of pointing to the upside. We haven't seen a curl start to happen just yet. If we start to see this curl, though, that might not be good. That means that we might just kind of, chop sideways and maybe have a little bit of a pullback. But as of right now, we're in a decent spot, right, on the hour chart. This curling back up too is also a positive sign that it wants to kind of hang out here for a little bit. So I think really what's important is us kind of maintaining 87, maybe 88K. And really, I think the bigger picture too is to really try to maintain the upper 80s, right? Before the 19th. And if we do get kind of a bad response from the 19th, 20th, 21st, we can at least be in a decent spot to where the pullback is not going to be so dramatic and take us below 80K or something like that. We don't want that, right? So for the rest of today, though, definitely keep my eye on, the price action on the hour chart, see if this breaks down. If it doesn't, we could see us hanging in that 87, 88, maybe 89,000. But as of right now, it's just kind of losing a bit of that buy session momentum. Let's see what the support and resistance battle is like right now on the 1 hour. And this is going back to 6 a.m. Eastern. So let's take a look here. Volume very low in these areas, but support's definitely winning the battle in all of these areas. Going to where it reverses back is 87,863, but the volume's low here as well. So I'm not too worried about this up here. Let's look at below support catching. So I actually think we're in a good spot here. As long as we can maintain above 87, we can have a continuation on the hour chart, which is going to be the next 2, 4, 6 hours of today. So I like the hour chart. I like it. Let's take a look here at the 4 hour. 4 hour is looking like a good setup, right? You can see it wants to come out of the sell pressures session on the 4 hour chart. Looks like stochastics is heading up here as well. So I like the 4 hour as well. Now it did it seems like it got a little bit rejected. You can see here too, like it wanted to cross over that slow line here on the MACD, but it didn't happen. So we really need to maybe try to get to that 88, 89, and then come out of this, and we can have a buy pressure session happening on the 4 hour, which would give us at least until about Thursday of some decent chop to the upside, maybe, right? Which would be good. Like I said, we need some sort of cushion in case we do have a pretty big pullback on the 19th, 20th, and 21st. The daily looks not so great. The buy pressure session is closing out here a bit. But that 4 hour, if we can get aggressive on that 4 hour, we could pop this back open. Do I think it's probable? Probably not. It does seem like it's kind of done here with this momentum on the daily chart, but anything's possible. We've seen that with Bitcoin, right? Like you can just turn on a dime. So, but we would have to have some aggressive push to the upside on that 4 hour chart, getting to maybe even like 90, opening this back up, and then, heading into the weekend. But let's see what happens here. If we get like a strong close out of this buy pressure session on the daily and go into sell pressure right away in a strong way, or maybe it's subtle. Maybe it's a weak sell pressure session, and we don't last there for very long. So definitely keep my eye on this, because the daily is really going to dictate, how the sentiment's going to be for the next week and a half to close out the year. That's what I see for Bitcoin. Taking a look at Ethereum here on the hour chart. Ethereum looks like it's starting to break down here on the hour. So, kind of a little bit behind, I feel, or no, a little bit, behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin looks a little bit healthier on the hour chart. So that's interesting. We are below 3,000 on Ethereum for the hour chart. So Bitcoin gets kind of strong on the hour chart. We get back to 78, 79, maybe, or sorry, 87, 88, 89. This will obviously reverse, because it's basically following Bitcoin. Sometimes they'll go a little bit ahead, sometimes they'll lag a little bit, but it's really looking to Bitcoin for some guidance, right? The 4 hour doesn't look like it's wanting to close out as much as Bitcoin does, right? But we are kind of in a little bit of a similar setup, right? It's getting closer, but this is actually starting to curve to the downside, right? So again, I think we need a strong push up from Bitcoin to have Ethereum to say, okay, you really want to go back up. Let's kind of get out of this sell pressure session here on the 4 hour as well. And then the daily is going to look similar, I imagine, as what we saw in Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, it has a little bit of a jump start here. You can see a little bit of red as it's kind of starting that sell pressure session on the daily as well. So just really kind of looking to Bitcoin for guidance, Ethereum is. And that's what Bitcoin and Ethereum is looking like right now. I think the setup's okay, though, for Bitcoin, and that's where it all starts, right? Taking a look here at the crypto bubbles, the top 100. Mix again, green up 10% here, pump pulling back 7.5%. You got Aster pulling back 8%. Starknet pulling back almost 8% there. But more green than I'm seeing red. You're almost looking like a 65-35% split here. Hyperliquid down 3%, Story Protocol down about 5%. Then you got some privacy here. Monero up 3.3%. Where's Zcash at? Let's see. Zcash pulling back 1.7% here. So it's kind of sporadic, right? It's a bit sporadic. The stuff that did pull up in the top 100, it's pretty. It's pretty much a nothing burger. You're seeing a lot of like 1.5% to 3%. With some one-offs here and there, about 5%. So it is green though, so that's definitely a positive thing. Let's take a look at the top 200. You're seeing some pullbacks with Beat. Beat was something that ran for about 3 or 4 days in a row. So seeing a 46% pullback, not too shocking there. You are seeing Merle pull back about 12% here, but still almost close to 40 cents. So sitting at 39 cents. I mean, when it does pull back, it's still not super surprising because the price is still strong, right? So it's not something that's really worrisome in my opinion. And then you got something like Zora that's pulled back up 5%. But same thing here.
For you real quick. Go ahead. So Beam got listed on Coinbase today, only up 5%. Do you think now that Coinbase basically has every token listed from Solana and Base ecosystem that the listings don't matter anymore?
What would you say got listed? I'm sorry, the
Beam 5.5%.
Gotcha. Do I think it matters as much? It definitely doesn't have as much weight, I feel like, as it used to in the past, right? Now, there's some anomalies, I feel like, this year that like maybe Binance was giving a lot more support towards, like Aster or something like that, right? To where it did drive up, significantly, but for the most part, I don't see as many of those messages or comments of, get listed on Binance, get listed on Coinbase, like we saw last cycle and kind of in 2022 as well, right? And parts of 2023. It's just not the main topic as much anymore, right? Which shows that the industry's changing in that aspect. So
Yeah, I honestly think that it's not going to matter as much. Like these listings, I think 5%. I mean, so there's a question: is it because of the market shit, or is it because the listings really don't matter? Because I mean, everyone would have pumped, right? In any other market, right? Any market we've ever been into, even in bearish markets, this would have pumped 15-20% on this news of the listing today. So it's really weird.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's less like meaning to being listed now on
Yeah.
centralized exchanges, and then the market is crappy, right? So I think Beam is probably just happy that it's a part of the group that is pulled up at
Yeah.
this point, right? When you see kind of how the market conditions are. So yeah, that's how the market looks, guys, for you guys for Bitcoin, Ethereum. If you guys kind of listened to the price action yesterday, and you shorted Bitcoin, you probably made some money, but don't try to follow that every time, because there's a lot of times I'm wrong with that. But yesterday was pretty easy. All the indicators were lined up together saying, hey, this is going to pull back, and it did. It pulled back to low 85,000s. So congrats to the people that shorted yesterday. But like I said, don't be using price action for that necessarily. Just do your own research and figure those things out. But that is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alt market for you guys.
Yep. Great job, man, on that. Let's jump into some more headlines here. So, Visa said it has opened its U.S. payments networks. It's a stablecoin settlement, allowing U.S. financial institutions to settle transactions using Circle issued USDC. Get this part though, they choose Solana. So Visa has came out and said they will allow U.S. institutions to settle transactions in Circle's USDC on the Solana blockchain. Solana for the win, bro.
Do you remember whenever there was a lot of USDC getting onboarded to Solana, and we were kind of like, that's weird, because they
Where's it
were
going?
putting a lot of USDC on Ethereum. They were putting a lot on in other places, but then also on Solana, we're like, it sounded weird at first, and now it makes sense, right? And I do think Solana has a lot of kind of pull in like in the US, you know what I mean, to where their founders and leaderships have a lot of connections. And say what you will, David Sachs has a lot of influence. I know he sold off like his holdings and all that stuff, but I'm sure he's fond of
he never
the founders.
held Solana.
Huh?
He owned a portion of multi-capital. He didn't actually have any Solana.
But that they had exposure to Solana.
Exactly.
So but I'm sure he has a lot of maybe like relationships with leadership and stuff like that as well, right? So, and it's an American chain, right? So
yeah,
I'm not surprised to start to hear that they're gonna probably get a lot of wins, is what I'm expecting. And we do know that they, the powers to be, that they pick winners, man, in industries,
100%.
So
isn't it crazy? Solana, California, Aptos, California. Like that's where these names of these chains came from. Little cities in California, of all places.
Funny.
California hates crypto, by the way. Like you can't legally stake in the state of California. Like, isn't that wild? Legally.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has something to do with banking and their ties to the politics there.
100%. PancakeSwap announced it will co-incubate Probable, an on-chain predictions market protocol on BNB. This is something I said a while back. I said, all right, CZ, they're going after the top protocol. This is kind of very similar to, I guess bootlegging. I don't know. Back in the day when, you'd have like an asset, like a purse or shoes, there would be people who would go to China and they would make, copies. And that's very similar what's happening with BNB. They see, what's happening with Hyperliquid. They create Aster. They see what's happening with Polymarket. They create Probable, all incubated by PancakeSwap and YZI Labs, which we know was formerly Binance Labs. Right? How do you feel about this? They're kind of chosen their winner here when it comes to prediction markets, and it's Probable.
I mean, it makes sense though. They're just trying to put out protocols that seem to be, the popular, increased user base type of protocols, right? So, I think this is normal. That doesn't mean that they're going to be like leaders necessarily. They have the resources for sure to try to
BNBs,
make that happen.
yeah. BNB wins.
Yeah, well, they also had, incubator programs that had projects not be successful in the past and then became successful without them, right? Hyperliquid being one of those. And so, a lot of times money can fix things, but there's certain situations to where it doesn't necessarily guarantee a winner. Yahoo's an example of that, in my opinion.
Well, I think
Whenever
we
Yahoo,
both call Aster a winner, right?
I
Right. I
mean,
think
so far,
guaranteed.
but
Yeah.
like it's about the long game, right? Like if you were to tell me and a lot of people, probably a lot of people smarter than me in like the early 2000s that Yahoo wasn't going to be the search engine winner, I would have probably been, I don't know about that, man. They just got bought, billions of dollars got acquired and the people behind that, like they have a lot of capital. They're going to make this work. Google obviously, became the front runner winner of that, right? So I think that our space is going to go through some similar situations, right? Now, I guess the one benefit is that like Binance has a lot of experience in Web3, and at that time, like everything was very new, so the acquisitions were probably by business-minded people that were learning about the internet at the same time as acquiring Yahoo, right? Because instantly they thought advertisement, that's what's going to bring money for search engine. And it makes sense logically, but at the end of the day, that's not what won, right?
I think crypto's different though, in that sense of, there being only one search engine and stuff like that. I feel like, depending on what chain you're on, right? Because I feel like different parts of the world use different chains. I feel like the East, they use BNB. They use
Yahoo's
Tron.
still a search engine. They didn't lose completely, like where they went out of business.
You know anyone who uses Yahoo? I mean, you had an issue yesterday where you're like, damn it, it's on Yahoo search. I wish it was on Google.
But
no
it's there,
right?
It's there. It's operating. They have revenue.
I'm just saying. I'm sure there's different parts of the world that potentially are going to use Probable over Polymarket, right? In the sense of, I think Probable is going to be one of the leaders. In the future, you're going to say Kalshi,
I think it's way too early and you're going to say determine that.
No, because this right here, YZI Labs. Because you got to remember, it's just a fork. It's just a fork of Polymarket. So it already has winning ability, right? Just like Aster, just a fork of Hyperliquid. At the end of the day, it's all it is. That's why Aster won.
I know, but no one can look into the future, right? So everything's a guess. Everything's a speculative guess.
It's a pretty obvious guess.
I mean, it's a speculation, right? That they're going to have like immense success. Like I can't say that. You know what I mean? Like I'd
put my money on that they would.
Yeah, that's fine. That's your opinion. That you're looking into the future, taking a speculative guess, right? That they're going to be like the leading, predictions market. But I'm not even saying Polymarket's going to be, because as much as they've dominated, that can switch. I've seen it in the internet. I've seen it with that, right? And as time goes on and more investors come in and stuff like that, I mean, things change sometimes, and so I think we're gonna know here in the next 4 to 6 years of who's really just like they are the complete dominant go-to for this. They're the complete dominant go-to for that. And don't forget, social media changed a lot of dominance throughout the 2000s and early 2000s. You had MySpace dominating completely, then you had Facebook, then you started to get more of the niched specialized stuff, Snapchat, Instagram. So those didn't die, they just kind of found their like grooves. And I think we'll get something similar to that in our space as well.
I think the main thing that I was saying though is this is going to win in the East, right? This is going to win because they trust CZ, they trust Binance, right? They use Binance. The top 2 chains in the East, we know, are Tron and BNB and Solana, right? They're the top 3. Solana because meme coin trading, right? 100%. That's the 100% reason why Solana is in the top 3 there. But I think BNB is where they do their DeFi. Tron is where they do their DeFi, and they trade here. So I think Probable will be the number 1 product in the East because of BNB, because of CZ. But again, my opinion here. So
I can see that.
Circle acquires Interop Labs team, initial developer for Axelar. Circle wants to make digital assets issued on ARC interoperable across various blockchains. So Arc is their blockchain. They want it to basically be when they're putting their tokens on Arc, they want to put all their tokens on Arc and then have them being bridged using Axelar. Well, product, I guess, like Axelar, because they went after the people who created the Axelar thing, right? They basically bought the foundation that created Axelar. And then on top of that, so they're no longer going to be helping Axelar anymore, which I think is kind of messed up. I didn't even know you could do that, but they're no longer going to be helping Axelar. They're going to be basically just copying Axelar because crypto is open source and basically locking that in Arc. And there's a rumor that Circle might actually patent this, right, and not make their version of this actually out there. Just basically you can't use it. So it could mess up some stuff with Axelar. So the Axelar community's pissed by this though. But Circle wants it. Circle bought it.
Circle wants it. Circle can do it. Circle got lots of money.
They do.
What kind of assets are they going to issue?
They all they want to do is make USDC interoperable. So that's all. They're using the tech behind. Axelar is a bridge. It's just really cool technology.
So they want it to be easily bridged everywhere, basically. Because right now, I mean, you can bridge it in a lot of places. EVM mostly,
Wormhole,
but Solana. But
now they want their own, right? They don't want to have to pay a third party. They want their own asset bridge. And the way Axelar
they'll probably charge a fee for that too.
Oh, 100%. So Axelar is the reason why stablecoins are so interoperable over on Atom. So it's one of the Cosmos hubs, right? So right now you can, if you have USDC on any chain, you can easily bridge it to using Axelar. Very very similar to just swapping, but it's using Axelar in the back end. And Circle wants that technology. And you think it's messed up if they patent it though? Because right now it's open source and they create their own version,
I think it would be messed up
and then patent it.
I think it would be messed up. But could they do that legally if they already created an open source version? Because if they're not profiting from it, I think that they could still be okay. Axelar I'm talking about, right?
But that's why they didn't just go buy Axelar tokens and then 51% attack it. They actually went to the team that actually built it to say, hey, build it over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could have easily just bought up the token and then 51% attacked it.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, they could have did that for sure. But I mean, we're starting to see kind of the dirty games behind like corporate 100%. America, and they're the best at that, right? They're the best at playing chess whenever you thought you were playing checkers or some other game. But myself had a great comment here. He said Solana had heavy VC funding to get it going, inorganic growth gains, global adoption all the time. It's the way of the soy. And he said soy burgers gained global adoption too. Have you ever had soy burger? Have you ever had a vegan burger?
I eat that shit. No, I've never eat that shit.
I
like meat.
I've had a vegan burger. There was one place that I've had it where it was actually good. What was it called? It was called damn it, I can't remember the name. Anyways, it started out of California, but they had locations here. It was the only place I've had a fake burger be good, but most are not good. But he's right. Funding can make anything popular for a little bit at least.
Well, that's the thing too, is like, all right, so they got fun. You got to remember how many VC chains there are out there. There's hundreds, right? I mean, layer 0, like there's hundreds of VC chains.
Aptos.
But exactly, but they're not as successful as Solana. So Solana, with how they won,
different time though, don't you think? Less competition when they launched. And
no, dude, because like there was a lot of competition. You got to remember there was like all these chains being built on Cosmos. There was like SDKs. You had all these like Arbitrum and Optimism. No one really used.
Well, Arbitrum didn't launch until when?
I used it in 2021.
Yeah,
I used it in 2020.
When did Solana launch?
I think they had a little bit.
Yeah, so they had a little bit head start in 2019.
No, so the coin was out in 2019, but I don't think the actual network actually launched until 2021.
But they could raise and they could paint the picture since 2019, and I think by doing that in 2019, they were a little bit lonely. And you did have Ethereum obviously building out their infrastructure and stuff like that.
Polygon Matic, they were VC'd up like crazy.
Right? Yeah, they're pretty successful. You know, they have
They're
a
in the
lot
top
of they have a
100,
lot
I
of
guess, right?
partnerships and stuff like that.
Solana's in
But
the top 4. They're in the top 100.
yeah, but I think that Solana had a
I'm
lot of like connections and the way that they were, you know, I don't know how often they met with FTX and stuff, but FTX had a lot of stake in Solana. And so they had a lot, Solana has had a lot of support from, you know, our government that wasn't acting like they were supporting like
yeah.
crypto at all, right? So they were
But
so that's the manipulation I think that myself is also talking about, right? It's inorganic. I think there was a lot of hands in that cookie jar that were supposed to be invisible hands, and we found out once FTX collapsed that like they were backed a lot.
yeah, but once the FTX clash, you know, Solana went at $8, but it was organic growth from that point, in my opinion. From the FTX crash till today, I mean, we use Solana on a daily basis. Why? Because it's cheap, because it's fast, because there's a lot of value. So
Yeah, I mean for meme coins and stuff like that for sure. Um, I do think they still had some support, but you're right. They had to work that back. I mean, there's a
100%.
lot of stuff that went wrong. It was a horrible time for them and their leadership. I'm
I've
sure of that. And then when they you know they had to do whatever they had to do to survive too.
Yep. And then you got to remember you have Helium on there, right? You have a lot of amazing builders that we don't talk about on a daily basis. You have Hive, right? There's a lot of really amazing builders there as well, you know, not to mention some of the larger dexes and stuff. So Ripple taps wormhole to expand RLUSD. So they got the news from Circle, basically getting Axelar. So they're like, all right, we need to get on this wormhole stuff. So Ripple now will be using wormhole to expand RLUSD. I think they all need this. You need RLUSD. You need liquidity pools everywhere. And what I learned about like PayPal PYUSD was when I first started using it, I was paying like $35 for $1,000 swap. Like it was expensive. Now there's a lot of liquidity to where I'm paying less than $3. So
Wow, that's a
without
big change.
liquidity, huge change. Liquidity skyrocketed over the last 6 months. And that was kind of why I wasn't using PYUSD in the beginning. But yeah, so Ripple now is kind of learning from that, and they're going to be adding liquidity to every chain using Wormhole. So that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I think they're going to do an even more aggressive push too with our USD. They feel like they need to have a strong presence, but
Yeah.
they're going to be behind in terms of the race. Obviously, USDC in the US is the strongest, and then you have USD1 is going to have a strong push. They're already doing that. They're going super aggressive. And then you have RUSD, which I think is behind everybody, but we'll see how strong their connections are and how many, you know, entities adopt them and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you can see here, I mean, you're 100% right. You have Tether, USD Coin, Athena, Sky Dollar, which we do is DAI. So these two are exactly the same coin. PayPal USD now in 6th place. World Liberty actually in 7th.
Yeah.
I'm actually predicting, you know, PayPal gets into the top 3 and World Liberty gets in the top 4. Do you see that?
I mean, we talked about this pre-show, and I said, why wouldn't PayPal be like a huge leader in our space? They've dominated fintech for a very, very long time. They know this game, and they're very like confident too. They're not like PYUSD here, there, and the other. It's just kind of like, hey, this is the product we offer. We believe in it. You know, we know what we're doing. We've been a leader and forever, and so I think they're going to be one of those that are subtle, end up in the top 5, right? And then World Liberty is more of like the aggressor, I feel like, kind of, because they are newer to this space, right? But they have probably the best like backing in terms of the administration, right? I mean, it's not direct, but let's be honest. Athena is one that's kind of like just overlooked a lot, just because I feel like it came into the scene this cycle, and you know, there's not an algorithmic component of it, but there's definitely something that they do with leverage, actually, perps, and to kind of gain I think it's gain revenue, right? Or to keep to pay out those yields. So
they short and they long.
They do something with the fee side of it.
Yeah, they short and they long, and to keep it 0. So when the coin drops a little bit, they long. When the coin they're doing something to kind of keep that at net 0. But it's also partially backed by USDC as well. So they have USDC as their sideline. But look at Ripple though. 1.3 billion. Dude, no one's going to catch Tether in USDC though. 78 billion for USDC, 186 billion for Tether. I mean, damn. So, let's move along here. PayPal submits application to become a US bank, and they are launching a savings vault on decentralized lending platform Spark, introducing a new way of its support stablecoins users to earn yield. Just so you guys are aware, this isn't the same Spark as the one building on Bitcoin. This is one that's actually on Base Chain. It's called Spark Lend, and they're a borrowing and lending platform. So PayPal is going to be opening up a vault there for PYUSD. So where if you have PYUSD on the PayPal system, then you're actually earning yield, and you don't even know you're earning yield. So just holding PYUSD over there is going to be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, PayPal being a bank, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I get it. You know, I don't like. I wonder what that. This is where I think their Web 2 experience of success comes in, right? Like,
Yeah.
how are they going to market this to their users, and then now new bank users as well, right? Because the whole banking business is all about having customers, because you want to have it's basically TVL, right? At the end of the day, because they
It's
can,
like our system. It's crazy.
yeah, they use. I mean, people will talk about, oh, you know, crypto's so risky and this and that. Dude, the banks are using our money to make more money. You know what I mean? That's what it's fractionalized banking, yes.
Yeah.
And so like they get away with it because of that, because they don't have to have
Well,
all
they
that
can go to the
liquidity.
Fed.
Huh?
They can
Yeah,
go
well,
to the
they're
Fed
backed by
whenever
the
they
Fed.
want.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
backed
And
by
be
the
like, hey,
Fed.
we need
And
money.
the system is like if you're a banker, you have to really mess up. I feel like if you're ingrained in that, you've been around like a Wells Fargo or, you know, like Washington Mutual. I remember them, and they went out of business, and I was like, how did they mess up? How did they drop the ball so badly? Obviously, you have stuff like 2008, 2009. That's more of a, you know, systematic type of crash with lending and, you know, letting people borrow money that probably shouldn't be borrowing money and not paying back. And so that was more of a system crash. But overall, I mean, you're backed by the Fed. You're using your customers' money to make more money. It's a pro-business type of thing for bank companies, you know. So that's probably why another thing that they hate that this new system's coming into place. But it is, and they got to deal with it. And PayPal's smart, because PayPal has experience working with those banks and stuff, and now they're like, we're here, we're good at this, we're going to be a bank too.
You got to remember, though, just because you get the banking license don't mean you get backed by the Fed, right? We saw that with Silvergate. We saw that with a couple other banks that went down.
But that was being
doing
biased.
a lot of Silicon Valley Bank. Exactly. I mean, but that's the thing, though, right? So just because you got the banking license doesn't mean the Fed's going to.
We're gonna know, though.
We're gonna know
if they still have that approach, right? Because they acting all friendly and nice. Oh, you can remove those documents from your employee break rooms about like crypto and stuff. But is it going to be true? And we're going to find out.
Yeah, and we're getting a new Fed in May as well, right? So we might see a lot of different there. But the final thing here is MetaMask.eth came out and they said Bitcoin has entered the chat. MetaMask now supports Bitcoin and potentially Bitcoin NFTs, otherwise known as ordinals. What do you think about MetaMask entering the potential ordinal game?
I thought they were going to do this like 6 months ago.
I know they do. I don't know why
them announcing it. I think every wallet has to support Bitcoin at least. Like, you know, to do like just sending back and forth, like the basic use of that it's always had. And so, you know, MetaMask should have probably supported Bitcoin a long time ago. But, you know, now that it does support Bitcoin, it does open the door for the possibility of, you know, one of these meta protocols really being adopted down the line, you know, if it's like catches a lot of momentum. And it's good for the long term of that, because, you know, if you have MetaMask, you have all the major wallet providers, you know, supporting Bitcoin payments and stuff, and something catches on like ordinals in 2023. Let's just say that happened in next year. While they can easily, you know, have their Bitcoin developers have the Taproot option, right? Taproot address option and stuff like that. Then if you have like these infrastructure players that are supporting it, then it's looked at, I think, by like Coinbase and Binance and stuff, and says, okay, this is pretty much ingrained in everything here. Let's make this work, possibly, right? So it helps, I guess, for the potential to actually be more adopted. Now, I think we're far away from that right now. because there's just a lot that needs to be solidified with either runes or whatever, Meta Protocol is going to really step up. But we still can't deny the fact that the largest on-chain economy that we've ever seen in Bitcoin was 2023, and there was billions of dollars that were, going back and forth, right? So it's to me, I think this is actually a really good sign for the Bitcoin ecosystem that MetaMask is adding this.
100%. Well, that's our show for you guys today. Really appreciate every single one of you guys, man, and rocking with us. You got to be a psychopath to still be in crypto, and we love our psychopaths here. So we really appreciate you guys hanging with us each and every day. Much appreciated.
Absolutely, guys. We appreciate all of you guys. You guys are awesome. Without you guys, we couldn't do the show. But also without our partners, we couldn't do it. So if you could check them out, we would greatly appreciate that. Emblem Vault is the interoperability layer of the Bitcoin ecosystem. If you are looking to jump your Bitcoin ordinals or Bitcoin NFTs, because Bitcoin does have just the NFT name as well for a asset class with counterparty, you have rare Pepes, you have Nakamoto cards. You can actually bridge those to Ethereum using Emblem Vault. Why would you use Emblem Vault? Because they are really the sole provider, but they've been doing this since 2021. And they have experience building on Bitcoin since 2013, right? So right now you can actually take over your Taproot Wizard ordinal and take a loan out against it on the Gandhi application, which is the largest borrowing and lending application on Ethereum. But that's not where they're going to stop. They're going to open this up to other environments and ecosystems, other layer 2s, EVM layer 2s, and Solana is going to be an option as well. And speaking of Solana, they have the best AI product in all of Solana and Hedera and BSC as well with agenthustle.ai. With Agent Hustle, you can ask Agent Hustle to find you some low cap gem opportunities. He'll bring back a couple of options, right? And depending on what ecosystem you have turned on, it could be Hedera, HBAR, Solana, whatever. He'll bring back some options for you and tell you why he thinks that these are solid options to get into. And then there's also a conditional trading engine built in Hustle. So you can say, hey, look, I've been using a lot of limit orders lately, by the way, myself. So this is something I'm going to be using more. You can say, hey, Hustle, buy Fartcoin when it pulls back 20%, sell it when I'm up in my position by 50%, rinse and repeat. He'll take care of that for you guys as you guys are taking care of life, right? So that's what we got to do. We got to go to the grocery store, to the gym, all that good stuff. But yeah, so there's different subscription levels to this. There's a free one for you to get a taster. There's the prompts are limited. So, a couple of prompts, but enough for you guys to get a taster of it. And then you can try it out. And then the paid subscription levels is where you're going to get the advantage of having more tools and of course prompts. And you can actually pay in the Hustle token. And the Hustle token, if you pay with that, you get a 30% discount. And the Hustle token is the single token that powers the entire Emblem ecosystem. So make sure you check out the Hustle token as well. And there's one more product in their suite here, and it's called migrate.fund. They had the first pump migration. Honestly, I think everybody that was on board was nervous because yesterday was the first actual migration. And these snipers are very stubborn and they're good at what they do. But the team was able to relaunch the token and migrate it perfectly fine. So check out this cohort. If you have a project and you have a community and you are thinking about migrating from Pump Fund to Bonk or Bonk to Pump Fund or to your own LPs, reach out to the team at migrate.fund. They can help you with that process. Of course, you got to get your community on board, but they will walk you through the process and you can reach out to them through migrate.fund or emblem.vision, where you can also learn about all the products I just broke down in the Emblem ecosystem. And then Merlin Chain is uniting Bitcoin's strength to the power of AI. They have their own AI wizard version 0.3. And the wizard can guide you through Merlin Chain's ecosystem and do DeFi functionalities on your behalf, but it can also swap for tokens outside the ecosystem. All you got to do is have some Merlin Chain Bitcoin, and you can swap for popular Solana tokens or BSC tokens as well. But going back to the Merlin Chain ecosystem, it can do DeFi swaps on your behalf using Merlin Swap or stake on your behalf as well. And speaking of staking, they have a proof of stake security model with Merlin Chain. You can participate in 3 ways. The first way is to stake Bitcoin to earn Bitcoin. I said that right. Stake Bitcoin to earn Bitcoin. So you get paid in Bitcoin. Awesome product here. The first staking vault ended September 30th. They got 17% APR for their Bitcoin stakers. The second one is going to end January 8th. So you got a couple days left. You can enter now if you'd like and earn up until the 8th. They're going to be shooting for that same APR, right? Minimum 8%, maximum 21%. And they're going to get you the best they can. but it does end January 8th, and they will be opening one after that. So if you're not interested in getting in now, you can get into the staking vault after that. Just make sure you're following them on X so you can get the details of when that next staking vault will open up, or you can keep watching the show. We'll definitely update you guys. And then there's two ways to stake the Merlin Chain token. The first one is the flexible day-to-day. You earn 15% APR on this stake, and you can claim your rewards daily. You can do whatever you want with those rewards. You can roll them up into a compound interest strategy, sell them, keep them in your wallet, whatever you want to do. Just know if you do withdraw, though, there is a 7-day cooldown period to get your Merlin Chain tokens back. It's just a part of their process, so just know that. And the last staking option is a 6-month lockup called the bonded option. You earn 45% APR. But the cool thing about this one is 6-month lockup, yeah, but you can claim your rewards daily and do whatever you want with those. So that's a really cool option that they give you guys. It is locked up for six months, though, but that's why you earn 45% APR. And we thank you guys so much for checking out Merlin Chain. Go to merlinchain.io. And then our latest partner is satsman.fun. This team launched their meme coin runes launchpad. It was live yesterday, right? So right now the focus is on these 3 Genesis tokens that the team has launched. And it looks like 7Z is getting most of the attention here, right? But what they're going to do with this launchpad is they're going to open this up to the public once these 3 Genesis tokens have been solidified, and they'll announce when that's going to happen. But the cool thing about this is Bitcoin layer 1. They're leveraging the ICP tech stack with this to make it faster. They can roll up the transactions and put them all into one block, right? So you're going to get that fast lightning speed, but it's going to be using Bitcoin layer 1 native assets. So we're really excited about this, and we're going to be doing some live stuff once it's open to the public. So make sure you guys are paying attention to this. Also, there's going to be a Spaces this Thursday with Ordinal Hive that's going to have their team kind of breaking this down. So if you guys have any questions, make sure you join that as well. It should be Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I believe. And we're going to try to get the team on as well, maybe Thursday as well. So, super excited about satsman.fun. We do think that this team is super passionate. We know they're super passionate because we talked to them several times. So check them out at satsman.fun. But thank you guys for checking out our partners.
Yeah, man, 100%. And real quick with this as well, this kind of works like a pre-sale almost, but there is no snipers. There's none of that crap in here. It's all legit people. 272 people in here, 77. So it's just under 1 full Bitcoin. It's about 0.77 of a Bitcoin. This will probably get to a full one. I'm excited to kind of see, and we're gonna make a video on it once this lands and goes to Rich Swap, where you're gonna see a lot of trading happening. So 7Z is something I'm really bullish on. Land Wolf and all in on Bitcoin. Definitely, if you guys are interested in these, proof of concept will be this one. And excited to kind of see what happens to these, but you can potentially get in early in these guys before this actually hits Rich Swap. So I think that is the time, but that is just me. But if you guys have a few more minutes and wouldn't mind checking out OnChainRevolution.io, read some of the best articles dating all the way back to 2023. If you know someone just entering the space, please send them our website. Really helping get started and code up to where we are today. If you guys need a VPN, I highly, highly recommend Nord. I use it on the daily. Holiday deal right now, 77% off. Lock it in for $2.99 a month. Lock it in for $77, potentially for 2 years, and you get an extra 3 months on top of that. Why do you need a VPN? Well, I love Mexi. Mexi is an exchange that I use, no KYC, but I use it mainly because it's so cheap. I'll send Bitcoin there and take out Solana. I'll take Solana there and take out ETH, but I do use it as a public restroom, in the meaning of you go in, do your business, and get out. I treat all exchanges like that, honestly, because not your keys, not your crypto, but it allows you to use tools. Having a VPN allows you to use tools like this, and Hyperliquid if you want to go long and you want to go short on one of the most liquid places with no KYC as well. You guys can use Hyperliquid. It's all about privacy, right? Privacy is legal here in the US, so be private if you want to be. And on top of that, if you guys have crypto and not in a hardware wallet and you're holding long term, that could be a mistake. You might need a hardware wallet. Or if you know someone, you're trying to think of someone to get something for Christmas, you're kind of running out of time here. Potentially you can use a fast shipping, but you can get that person a Ledger, Flex, Stacks. Yeah, a whole bunch of new ones here. My personal favorite is the Easy Nano X, though. I know it because I've used it. $74. I think I paid $130 for mine, so you're definitely getting cheaper than I ever did. So definitely look into that if you're interested. But you guys can check out everything at onchainrevolution.io. And remember, guys, we are live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 3 p.m. UTC. Check us out all week, guys. Until tomorrow.
Peace.
On-chain, 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 on-chain. On-chain revolution, roll call. Market recap. You're not bullish enough, no. You're not bullish enough, no. Look at the price go, Bitcoin control. Why you still coping? Price action rolling. Don't fall for bear trap. Swapping indexes and putting it up in the sets. I can take profit right now. On-chain is where I be now. You can never look back. They don't want you to know. How did the market react? Fear and greed, gotta adapt. Now we bridging the tokens and marching the network right now. You know how crazy we are. Nookies are savages now. They know how crazy we are. Chain abstraction, main attraction. On-chain revolution.